Good evening. Thank you for everybody who's joining us tonight. I'm Beth DeFalco, the Deputy Commissioner of Public Affairs and Communications for the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. But tonight I'm serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing of the New York City Water Board on proposed water rates to take effect beginning July 1st. After several years of virtual hearings, we're pleased to be returning to in-person meetings in each of the boroughs. Tonight's our second meeting, following Staten Island last night. Really pleased to be at the JFK Junior School tonight, and I want to thank the Department of Education for making this venue available to us. This meeting is being recorded, and an audio recording and transcript of the meeting will be made available at the board's website at nyc.gov/NYC Water Board. So with that said, I'd ask you to kindly please place your phone on silent with myself, so that we don't have any background noise. We've also placed several documents into the official record, including a notice appointing me as the hearing officer, verified copies of the public notices placed in newspapers, a draft of the rate schedule listing the rates and billing policies for the coming year, a public information booklet describing the proposed rates, and copies of the written testimony received by the board so far. The draft rate schedule and the public information booklet are also available on the board's website, as is a copy of the presentation you'll be hearing today. The program for today includes two sessions. First, senior representatives from the DEP will present the proposed water rates for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, and then members of the public will have an opportunity to make a statement. The purpose of this hearing is to allow the public to present their viewpoints and opinions on the new rate being proposed. We're here to listen, to take notes, and to compile a record of the testimony. This is not intended to be a debate, and we won't be able to respond directly to questions or engage in direct, open discussion here. If you wish to speak but haven't registered yet, you still have an opportunity to do so. Just see the DEP staff here, both sitting around it at the table over there. And they will be able to add you to the list of the people scheduled to speak today. If you'd like to provide testimony today but prefer not to speak at the microphone, you can provide us with written testimony either today or any time up until June 5th. You can do that by either you can also hand a copy of any written testimony to one of the board officers here today, or you can email us at nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov. Or you can mail it to 59-17 Junction Boulevard, 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. We have members of the Water Board here today joining us, including the chairman, Alfonso Carney, and we've got members John Golden and Juke Su. We're also joined by the DEP Commissioner Rohit Agarwal, who also serves as the city's climate officer. As well as we have Water Board Treasurer Omar Zem. And before we get started, Chairman Carney, do you have anything that you would like to say as opening remarks?
Just a few things. Thank you. Madam Hearing Officer. Can you all hear me? Terrific. It's great to be in Queens tonight. We haven't been together like this in 3 years, 2019. It's a great opportunity to hear what people who do come want to tell us about the rate that's being proposed. Rest assured that we have not had meetings about the rate where the board has considered what's going to be proposed tonight. We've seen the presentation, but we've not actually discussed the presentation, and we have not expressed views amongst ourselves about whether the rate is a good rate, a bad rate, or the right rate. We want to hear from anybody who comes, but we want to make sure that you understand that no opinions have been formed about what it is that we will ultimately do sometime in June. We've just not done that. We are looking to take testimony, to read it, to hear it, and then to get together, put our heads together, and make decisions. I want to thank the Commissioner for being here tonight. He's going to do the presentation. And is there anything that any of the other board members want to say? Okay. Then, Madam Hearing Officer, you get the mic back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the Commissioner.
is Rohit Agrawal. I'm the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and I'm pleased to present the rate outlook for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. A couple of things to cover in tonight's presentation. A bit of an overview of what happens when you pay your bill, how we as an administration have been working to keep our rate rates low by finding funds, the actual proposal and some customer programs that we have requested the Water Board to approve along with the rate, and then just the final information on the rest of the hearings process. So quickly, of course, what happens when you pay your bill? The water bill is what supports the operations of New York City's water system. The Department of Environmental Protection, insofar as its water operations are completely funded by the water payments that New York City residents make. This includes almost all of the 5,500 employees who work for DEP. And of course, we provide the city with a water supply, with freshwater distribution for drinking water, with our sewer system, and with the wastewater treatment plants that process the sewage and keep the harbor clean. We're very pleased at how well we've been doing on that score. As you'll see in a moment, more than half of the water rates go towards investment. The bulk, the largest single proportion of our water bill is used to do payments directly, PAYGO financing for capital investments, or to finance the debt on our assets. And that goes into three categories. One is the long-term investments into keeping our water supply system, something New Yorkers have been making since the 1830s and served the city very well. Protecting the harbor, something that has been especially important over the last decade or two, and is the reason that New York's harbor is cleaner than it's been in 150 years. And an increasing share of our investments is going to address the challenges of climate change within the city in terms of flooding that it will cause, as well as upstate in terms of the risks to water quality and the reliability of our supply that climate change causes us. As I said, more than half of the water bill goes to fund debt service on our capital investments, and you see on the right-hand side here that our overall capital improvement program for the next 10 years is projected to be $31 billion, roughly evenly distributed between water pollution control, the wastewater treatment plants, the sewer system, and the water supply system that includes the upstate reservoirs as well as the water mains in the city. A couple of major projects that are reaching important milestones right about now. One is the bypass tunnel for the leaking section of the Delaware Aqueduct that carries half of New York City's daily average water supply. This is a 10-year, more than $1 billion project. We're very proud of the fact that it was designed in-house by DEP engineers and is the largest repair project in New York City history. Over the next year, we will actually be activating this section. The bypass section has been constructed. We've undertaken significant work to make sure that during the 6 to 8 month period during which we will not have access to the Delaware Aqueduct, that New Yorkers will receive an uninterrupted supply of the high quality water we take for granted. We're confident in our ability to do so, and our current expectation is we will start this work in October of 2023 and have the new section and the full Delaware Aqueduct back in service in May of 2024. Another major milestone was just over the last couple of months, we actually announced the final completion schedule for the third water tunnel. This is a project that's been going on for more than 50 years. It has brought already redundancy in terms of water supply to the Bronx and Manhattan, and will do so by 2032 to Brooklyn and Queens. And this will allow New Yorkers, will allow DEP to begin a very long-term process of overhauling the first water tunnel. A couple of projects in Queens to focus on. We've invested $80 million in drinking water and drainage improvements in Bayside, Auburndale, and Murray Hill in Queens. This will have significant benefits to reliability of supply and stormwater management. And wow, we didn't even include Southeast Queens. I thought, you can't get out of a Queens hearing about DEP and not talk about the $200 million a year that we are investing in building out that sewer capacity or storm sewer capacity for the people of Southeast Queens. A major focus of ours over the last year has been working to keep rate hikes low by finding funds. One key component of that has actually been helping people who are struggling to pay their water bills. We know, particularly over the last 3 years of the pandemic, that New Yorkers, many New Yorkers, found economic hardship. And so with the Water Board's support and their authorization, DEP has undertaken a number of efforts. The first was our amnesty program that to date has resulted in nearly $90 million in additional revenue from people who had fallen behind in their bills based on the offer of reducing or eliminating their interest payments owed to us. That will conclude, in fact, next week. DEP has chosen to invest a lot of time and effort through our Bureau of Customer Service in marketing a state program that uses federal funds called LIWA to help low-income homeowners who have fallen behind on their water bills. We have taken the effort to alert people we think are qualified. Unfortunately, the state's rules require them to apply on their own. But as a result of that, New Yorkers have received $24 million in payments that have gone to DEP to reduce their debt. And thanks to a program authorized by the Water Board, DEP itself has sweetened the deal. So anybody who has gotten the full amount of federal funding, because it's capped at $5,000 per household, and they still have debt to the Water Board, we have forgiven that because they've gotten that great federal money. And that $24 million goes straight into our coffers and therefore replaces money that we might otherwise have to ask for from the ratepayers. We've got additional programs similarly that have helped multifamily affordable housing. And all of this has been a way to enable us with confidence also to start enforcing. And over the last month, DEP has issued its first water shutoff notices since 2009 to a small number of customers with very high property values with very high balances. And I'm pleased to say that already we've gotten $1.2 million in payments from people whom we have threatened with water shutoffs. We've actually not had to follow through on a single water shutoff to date. So this is a process that is working, is bringing in revenue for the ratepayers. Here's a little more detail, and 82 million is actually a number you see on the screen, but that's a week old, so we are pretty much at 90 million already. And one of the things it has done is we now have, for the first time since the pandemic, a clear trend of declining accounts receivable at the Water Board. And that's an important thing because that means people are paying up, and that directly means we do not have to raise the rate as much as we otherwise might have. We are also, as the Adams administration, working across the board to maximize other sources of funding from federal money and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and also the recently approved New York State Environmental Bond Act. There are significant pots of money from all three of these that DEP can qualify for, and any money we get can therefore offset money that we otherwise might have had to ask for from the ratepayers. And one thing that we have been particularly outspoken on is the fact that New York State places arbitrary caps that in many cases prohibit New York City from accessing federal money that otherwise we would qualify for. It actually is a problem that has prevented us from accessing well over $100 million that we might be eligible for. On to our rate proposal. Over the last year, we've seen three things drive our expenses. The first is an increase in the interest rate for bonds issued by the Municipal Water Finance Authority. That has led to a projection of an increase in debt service costs of about $300 million. We have had a labor agreement across the city with DC 37, and the expectation is that will be reflected in pattern bargaining, and so we can project that into fiscal year 24. So our personnel costs we expect to go up by about $74 million. And then a number of areas where we are subject to the inflation that we've seen in certain sectors of the economy, including particularly chemicals, which of course DEP buys a lot of. That's at least a $9 million increase. Altogether, that would have been roughly a $400 million increase, but it is offset by $248 million in additional revenue that we are projecting due to the amnesty and to enforcement. Some already collected that we will be using to offset expenses in fiscal year 24, and some that we are planning on based on our intention to continue enforcement. Altogether, that means that we have proposed to the Water Board a rate hike of 4.42%, which you see here, and it also, which at a household level, given that the average New York homeowner, a single-family home pays about $1,000 a month. That translates into a monthly increase of $3.84 a month, and for an average unit in a multifamily home, that will go from $773 a year to $808 a year, and that's about $2.85 per month. Notably, we have requested that the Water Board keep the minimum charge flat, which is a particular assistance, particularly to people who live alone and at very low water consumption. As has been the case for many years, our rate request keeps us actually at the lower end of what we are seeing in peer cities. In New York City, on so many things, we are at the high cost end among peer cities around the United States. On this, we are certainly in the middle. We are at the median of where other big cities are in terms of their water costs. And as part of this rate proposal, we have requested authorization from the board to continue several programs that help New Yorkers in paying their water bills. The Multifamily Water Assistance Program, which helps affordable housing, the Home Water Assistance Program, which helps other single-family and 1 to 4 family homeowners, and the Leak Forgiveness Program, which is a very popular one that helps us encourage homeowners to go ahead and fix leaks, because if they do that quickly, they will then qualify for a rebate of part of the water that was wasted. So in total, that adds up to $30 million that we will be investing in affordability programs. And then finally, to conclude, the remainder of our public hearings, tonight we are here in Queens. Over the next week or so, we have Manhattan, Brooklyn, and hearings scheduled. Manhattan during the day at 2 p.m., Brooklyn at 6 p.m., and the Bronx at 6 p.m. on the 31st and the 1st. And then the Water Board will meet on Tuesday, June 6th at 9:15 in the morning in Lower Manhattan, where they will discuss and, I hope, vote on the budget and the final act. So, just to conclude, the proposed rate is an increase of 4.42%, and you see here on the screen the way that you can get further comments in either by mail, by email, or by phone to the Water Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Agrawal. With that, we'll go ahead and move into the public testimony portion of the meeting. But seeing as that we still have no registered speakers, I'll just reach out and see if there's anybody who'd like to reconsider in the audience who'd like to testify. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and move on, and this will conclude this hearing of the Water Board. Our next hearing's in Manhattan at 2 p.m. on Tuesday the 30th. And the borough hearings again will continue through June 1st, with the board voting on June 6th. And if it does adopt the rate hike by the board, the rates will go into effect on July 1st. Thanks so much. Good evening.